On the mean streets of the ancient Near East, murder, mayhem, theft, and other atrocities run rampant. These are the stories of the Mosaic Police. You're watching Torah and Order. Civilization at this time is far from removed from the ideals of Genesis. Keep in mind, we are looking at people that were badly damaged by the fall. God knew the condition of the people's hearts and minds. So God didn't impose legislation that Israel wasn't ready for. He moved incrementally. God met his people where they were, but he didn't want to leave them there. God raised up a covenant nation and gave the people laws to live by. He helped to create a culture for them. In doing so, he adapted his ideals to a people whose attitude and actions were influenced by deeply flawed structures. Again, so many atrocities were commonplace in the ancient Middle Eastern culture that God had to guide his people to his will and expectations. In other words, God saw his people and met them halfway. So, when an atheist uses, for example, Joshua chapter 10 verse 22 to 27 to illustrate Joshua after killing 5 Canaanite kings and then hanging their corpse on a tree all day, we don't have to explain away or justify such practice. Such actions reflect a less morally refined condition. By the Old Testament's own admission, the Mosaic Law was inferior and future-looking. In fact, God informs his people of a new, enduring covenant will be established. God declares in Jeremiah that he will establish a new covenant with Israel and Judah. Why? Because Israel broke his last covenant. It will not be like the previous covenant. God then tells us it will be different. This covenant will be placed not on stones, but placed on our minds and our hearts. He is our God, and we are his people. This is also mentioned in Ezekiel chapter 36, verse 22 on. As one writer puts it, if human beings are to be treated as real human beings who possess the power of choice, then the better way must come gradually. Otherwise, they will exercise their freedom of choice and turn away from what they do not understand. God's action of incrementally humanizing ancient Near Eastern structures for Israel meant diminished harshness and an elevated status of debt servants, even if certain negative customs weren't fully eliminated at that time. Again, think about what Joshua did to the 5 Canaanite kings. God's law were given to an immature and morally corrupt people that were deeply enthralled in the horrid and sinful practices of the ancient Near East. Was the law good? Not only was it good, it was completely necessary for the people of that time. Keep in mind, it was for a time and for a people, not for all time and for all people. Just as a child needs rules and laws to learn right from wrong, once the child grows into an adult and moves out of their parents' house, they will carry with them the laws and rules of their parents in their minds and hearts.